Got it.
Can we get a mic check, please?
Patricia Mancha, media spokesperson for TSA.
Okay, and can you get a white balance real quick, please? Thank you. Okay.
You good on the white balance? All right. You guys say when.
Is everybody set?
Are we ready?
Could you say the name and spelling again?
Patricia Mancha, Patricia Mancha, and I'm media spokesperson for TSA. As of May 7th, every traveler who goes to the airport security checkpoint will be required to present a real ID. What that means is that every person has provided documentation to validate and verify their identity. And in the state of Texas, a real ID is usually a driver's license with the symbol of the state and a star in the middle. A reminder that each state has its own ID, and they actually create their own document. So if you're not from the state of Texas, you're from another state, you can check your ID to verify that you have the correct document. Texas is a single issue state, which means everybody who has gotten a driver's license or renewed a driver's license since 2016 very likely is Real ID compliant. But it is every traveler's responsibility to make sure that they check that. Now, if you don't have a driver's license, there's other documents that are considered Real ID compliant. Those include a passport card. If you're part of the Department of Defense, your DoD ID as well as dependent ID. If you're part of a federally recognized tribe, you can use that identification. If you have a TWIC card, which is a transportation worker identification credential that most workers who have to go to a shipyard use, then you can use that one. If you're a merchant marine, you can use that as well. For a complete and full list of documents that are considered real ID, go to tsa.gov and get that comprehensive list. If you have questions, you can go to any of our social media platforms and ask TSA, where you can ask a uniformed officer a question and get a response within the hour. Generally, you will get a response in 3 minutes or less. It's really important for people not to panic, but to understand that it's every traveler's responsibility to know what they have. Make your appointment today if you don't have an ID. If you have elderly parents who have an ID without an expiration date, it's very likely that their ID is not compliant. So please contact your state DMV for further information. Now, every day we have travelers who come to our checkpoint who lost their ID, who maybe had their purse stolen, who don't know where their ID is, and we work with them to validate and verify their identity. That's the same process that we will use after May 7th. However, it's a numbers game. If we have 100 travelers who don't have a real ID and you're number 99, there is no guarantee that we will be able to verify your identity and allow you entry into the checkpoint, thus allowing you to travel that day. So you really are taking a chance with that. And also, there is no guarantee that we will be able to verify your identity, even if you come early enough. So make sure that you make all the possible movement and effort to get your real ID. Now, if you're an international traveler, whatever documents you used to lawfully enter the US are the same documents that you would use at the airport checkpoint when you're traveling, even domestically or internationally. A passport from any country is accepted at the checkpoint as long as it's not expired. And that's really important. An expired document is not considered Real ID compliant. I believe that that's all the information I have. That's a lot of information, and I know that I didn't have sound bites. I can kind of give you a real quick, let me turn. As of May 7th, all travelers will be required to show a real ID. If you don't have your ID, contact your state DMV to make any actions necessary to get that. For information, go to tsa.gov or our social media platforms and ask TSA. Yes, ma'am.
background check, will that be acceptable to go through security?
So TSA PreCheck does not provide a physical card. You have a known traveler number. Any traveler who shows up at the checkpoint must present a physical card. If you have a temporary card, for instance, from the Driver's License Bureau or from DMV, a paper certificate is not considered compliant. You must have your actual card with you with your photo on it.
What about those who use other forms of background checks like Clear, or with an airline that use the vision technology when they go through security?
So like if you have a Sentry card, you can use that, but you must have a physical card. Some airports have a pilot program, but Houston is not one of them, so I really don't want to talk about that because it will confuse travelers here. But you can go online and get more information about that for the scanning, what you asked about.
What about Clear?
Clear, if you have a card, you have to have a physical card. That's why a temporary driver's license, the paper, is not considered real ID. It must be the card because the card will then be checked against our records.
Is it possible to have more than one real ID and maybe even a good idea?
Yes, people, like I said, people can have a passport, they can have a passport card, they can have an employment authorization card. If you're not a US citizen, you can have a permanent residence card. So there's lots of different IDs that are considered compliant. That's why it's really important for people to go to our website, tsa.gov, get that comprehensive list. Don't panic, but really act today. Make sure you have it. And if you have a question about your ID, contact your state DNV. Like I said, Texas is a single issue state, so everybody who goes to get an ID must get a real ID. But that's not the case in every state. So if you're in a neighboring state, if you're somewhere where you don't have to have a real ID when you get a driver's license, make sure that you check that.
What if I'm about to fly and I lose my license right before the trip and I have to go get a new one, a temporary, but it's paper?
So again, that happens every day. Today will be no exception. We will have more than one traveler who shows up at our checkpoint without a physical ID for whatever reason. They lost it, it got stolen, it got eaten by the dog, insert your reason. We work with those travelers to verify their identity. They will be subject to additional screening of their person and of their bags, their luggage, their carry-ons. But once we verify their identity, then they're allowed entry into the checkpoint, and that's what allows them to fly. If we are not able to verify your identity, then you will not be allowed entry into the checkpoint and will not be allowed to fly. The key for you, if you don't have a real ID, is that if we have multiple people who don't have a real ID and it takes us that long to verify your identity, you may not be completed and done by the time your flight takes off. Your flight is very likely not going to wait for you. So it's really important for travelers to just open their wallet, look at their ID. If they don't have an ID, do you have a passport? Do you have a passport card? Do you have any of the other documents that may allow you access to the checkpoint? That's the key.
Are you able to divulge the alternative methods you would use to verify someone's ID? Like what might take place?
So they're going to ask you a series of questions about yourself, where you've lived, maybe where you worked. It's kind of like what they do when they do a credit check. I can't tell you exactly all of the questions, but they will be about you. So if you're someone who's lived in 17 different places in the last 2 years, you may not be able to remember every address. And if you can't remember or provide some of that information, they may not be able to validate your identity. Anything else? I mean, it's very clear and straightforward. I don't think it's confusing. People are just a little bit panicked because they don't have all the details. It's all about the information. Get the information, make sure that you check, and just do what you need to do because nobody needs to panic. We want to work with the public. That's why we're here, because we want to make sure that people understand that this is not anything that we're doing to prevent people from traveling. We just want to make sure that this is an added layer of security, much like many things that we do at TSA, to make sure that everyone who goes through the checkpoint and onto their flight has complied with all of our security requirements. Okay? Thank you.
Sheet you picked up, which one was that?
This one. This is the key right here. So before you leave, make sure you get this information, which has a lot of the documents that are considered compliant that I discussed. A TWIC card, a Merchant Marine card, a passport, a green card, all of those things right here. These are the documents that people can look for. A lot of people have these already. You got it? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Unbound.
All right.